the Mafia boss who mocked the weak Omega, until the blood moon rose. He laughed when I said I'd protect his pack. He called me useless, a weak Omega. But that night, under the blood moon, the weak one didn't stay weak. Hello Moonlit family. Welcome back to Moonlit Romance Stories. If you're new here, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more epic stories filled with betrayal, power, and transformation. And to all my loyal viewers, thank you for always lighting up the moonlit world with your support. The rain fell hard on the marble steps of the Romano mansion, washing away the last traces of blood. Inside, beneath the golden chandeliers and the scent of expensive cigars, laughter echoed, cold, cruel, and directed at one man. Eli stood in the center of the grand hall, drenched and trembling. His torn shirt clung to his thin frame, revealing faint scars across his chest. Around him, the Mafia boss's men formed a ring, their smirks sharp as knives. But none cut deeper than the gaze of Luciano Romano, the man sitting at the head of the table. Luciano leaned back in his chair, swirling a glass of wine between his fingers. "You call yourself an Omega?" he sneered. "Pathetic. You can't even fight, can't protect yourself, can't even obey properly." His voice dripped venom, every word a dagger. Eli's fists clenched, his breathing shallow. He had begged for a place in the Romano family, a chance to survive after the streets took everything from him. But instead of protection, he found humiliation. Luciano rose from his seat, his black suit perfectly pressed, his dark eyes glowing with power. He stopped inches from Eli and whispered, "You're a mistake I should have erased the moment I saw you." Then, with a smirk, he struck Eli across the face, not with his hand, but with the back of his pistol. Eli fell to his knees as laughter erupted. His blood stained the marble. The boss's lieutenants chuckled like hyenas, their eyes feeding on his shame. "Get him out of my sight," Luciano ordered. "If he's still alive by morning, maybe he'll learn how to crawl properly." Two guards dragged Eli into the rain and threw him into the street. His body ached, but his spirit burned with something darker, a silent promise. As thunder cracked above, he stared up at the night sky. Behind the clouds, something pulsed faintly red, a moon unlike any he had seen before. Hours passed as Eli wandered through the city's forgotten alleys. His blood mixed with the storm water, his thoughts with rage. Weak, useless, Luciano's voice haunted him. But as midnight neared, the air grew strange, heavy, electric. The clouds tore open, revealing a full crimson moon. Its light poured over him like fire, searing his skin, making his veins glow faintly. His breath caught as pain and power surged through him at once. He screamed, not in fear, but in something primal. In the distance, dogs howled, lights flickered. And far back at the mansion, Luciano looked up from his drink, feeling a chill crawl up his spine. Something had awakened. Eli's eyes widened as he stared at his trembling hands, the scars on his chest forming a glowing sigil he didn't understand. Beneath the blood moon, the weak Omega was no longer weak. The pain seared through Eli's body like fire under his skin. He staggered backward, clutching his chest as the glowing sigil twisted and pulsed, matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. The rain had stopped, but steam rose from the puddles around him, each drop sizzling when it touched his skin. The blood moon above seemed to watch him, silent, ancient, and alive. "What's happening to me?" he whispered, his voice breaking. His reflection in a shattered window caught his eyes. Veins of silver light ran along his neck, his pupils shifting to an amber hue before fading back to normal. A voice, low, distant, and almost inhuman, whispered through the wind. "You were never weak, Eli Romano. You were simply asleep." He stumbled away, terrified, but the voice followed, echoing inside his skull, vibrating with power. The sigil on his chest pulsed again, and suddenly, he could hear things. Footsteps far away, heartbeats hidden behind walls, even the faint rhythm of the city itself. every sense sharpened to painful clarity. Then came the scent, faint, metallic, familiar. Blood. He turned toward the alley's end, and there they were, two of Luciano's men, the same guards who had thrown him out. One of them laughed, pointing. "Look who's still breathing. The boss said to finish the job if we saw you." Eli's breath came slow and deep. He didn't move. He didn't beg. Something inside him had shifted, cold, calm, and deadly. When they lunged forward, time seemed to slow. His body moved before his mind could think, a blur of motion, instinct, and raw power. When the moment ended, both men were on the ground, motionless. Eli stared at his trembling hands, slick with their blood. He hadn't meant to kill them, but whatever lived inside him didn't care. A sudden flash, images not his own, filled his mind. A silver-haired woman standing under the same red moon, screaming as flames rose behind her. A baby with a faint mark on his chest, and a man in a black suit, Luciano, holding a blood-stained knife. Eli gasped, collapsing against the wall. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Why did I see that? The sigil dimmed slightly, leaving him trembling and hollow. At the mansion far away, Luciano slammed his glass onto the table, shattering it. "That feeling again," he muttered. "The curse." His advisor looked up in confusion. "Boss?" Luciano's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. "Find the boy. Now." Eli limped toward the city's edge, the moonlight following him like a spotlight. His world was spinning, fear, rage, and a strange thrill intertwining into something he couldn't name. As he reached an abandoned warehouse, he collapsed to his knees, whispering, "What am I becoming?" From the shadows a voice answered, old, hoarse, and eerily calm. "You're becoming what the blood moon always intended." Eli froze. An old man stepped into the dim light, his eyes glowing faintly silver, his coat tattered. "Welcome to the curse of the bloodline, Omega. You've just awakened." Before Eli could speak, the man dropped a silver medallion at his feet, the exact sigil glowing on Eli's chest. "The blood moon chose you," he said, "but it's also coming for him." And somewhere in the distance, Luciano's car engines roared to life, heading straight into the storm. Eli's breath caught as the medallion hit the concrete floor with a dull metallic clink. Its glow pulsed faintly, the same rhythm as the sigil on his chest. The old man's eyes glimmered like mercury as he said, "The blood moon doesn't bless, it binds. And now both you and the Mafia boss are bound by it." Eli stumbled backward, his voice shaking. "You know about Luciano? Tell me what this curse means." The old man exhaled slowly, his breath visible in the cold air. "Luciano Romano carries the bloodline's inheritance. The curse runs through your veins because you are both descendants of the first Alpha who defied the moon's law. One embraced power. The other," he paused, eyes narrowing on Eli, "was forgotten." Thunder rumbled above and Eli's pulse quickened. Descendants? The thought clawed at his mind, but before he could ask more, the screech of tires cut through the night. Black cars surrounded the warehouse, headlights slicing through the darkness. Men in suits spilled out, armed and ready. Luciano's voice echoed from outside, sharp as steel. "Find him. Bring him to me alive." The old man's expression turned grave. "He's come for you, and he will not stop until you're broken again." Eli's chest tightened as footsteps approached. He turned to the stranger. "Help me." The man only smiled faintly. "No one survives the curse alone. Prove you're worthy of it." Then, in a swirl of silver mist, he was gone. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the air, shattering the windows. Eli dove behind a beam, his heart pounding. Every sound was amplified, every scent, every heartbeat. Instinct screamed in his veins. When one of the guards came close, Eli moved without thought. Swift, brutal, silent. But there were too many. A blow caught him across the ribs. Another slammed him into the wall. He tasted blood. From the doorway, Luciano appeared, unbothered by the chaos. Rain dripped from his coat as he stepped forward, eyes locked on Eli. "I warned you what happens to weak dogs who bite their masters." Eli struggled to his feet, his hands trembling. "You're my blood?" he hissed. Luciano froze for a fraction of a second, just long enough for Eli to see it. The flicker of guilt, the flash of recognition, then his expression hardened. "You don't deserve that name." He snapped his fingers. Two men grabbed Eli by the shoulders, forcing him down. The boss's voice turned cold. "You should have stayed dead." As lightning illuminated the warehouse, Eli's body convulsed, the sigil on his chest blazing crimson. A shockwave of energy erupted, flinging the guards backward. Luciano shielded his face as wind howled around them. Eli screamed, the sound echoing like a wolf's cry under the storm. The blood moon's light pierced through the roof, bathing him in red fire. His wounds healed in seconds, his eyes now glowing faintly amber. Luciano's men hesitated, terrified. The boss stared, jaw tight. "So the curse woke in you too." Eli's voice deepened, steady and fierce. "I'm done being your prey." He lunged forward, faster than the eye could follow, knocking Luciano's gun away. The two clashed, fists, rage, and history colliding in one violent dance. But before Eli could land the final blow, the crimson light flickered, then vanished. The power left as suddenly as it came. Eli collapsed to his knees, gasping. Luciano stared down at him, blood trickling from his lip. "You're not ready," he whispered, almost regretful, "and when the moon rises again, you'll wish you were dead." Luciano raised his gun and fired, but instead of a bullet, a tranquilizer dart struck Eli's neck. The Omega's vision blurred as Luciano's last words echoed through the storm. "Lock him up. The blood moon belongs to me." Eli's eyes fluttered open to darkness. His head throbbed, his mouth dry as sand. Cold iron bit into his wrists. Chains. The faint drip of water echoed through the stone chamber around him. It wasn't a prison cell. It was older, deeper, a dungeon beneath the Romano mansion. He tried to move, but the moment he did, pain ripped through his chest where the sigil burned faintly under his shirt. A chain of symbols glowed along the walls, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Every time he pulled at the cuffs, they tightened, drawing faint blood. Then came the voice. Smooth, cruel, familiar. "I warned you not to challenge me." Luciano stepped out from the shadows, dressed in a dark vest, sleeves rolled up. His face was calm, but his eyes held something more than anger. Curiosity, maybe fear. He crouched near Eli, studying the faint glow of the mark on his chest. "So it's true," Luciano muttered. "The curse has awakened again." Eli met his gaze, jaw tight. "What are you talking about?" Luciano stood, pacing. "A century ago, our bloodline was split. One side took the power of the blood moon to rule. The other rejected it. Your family was the latter. You were never meant to survive, Omega." Eli spat blood, defiant. "Then why keep me alive?" Luciano smiled faintly, his tone mocking but strained. "Because your curse might be the key to saving me." The words hung heavy. "Saving you?" Luciano turned away, facing the flickering torchlight. "Every blood moon takes something. My strength fades a little more each time. Soon I'll rot from the inside like every Romano before me. But if your blood can balance the curse..." He looked back, eyes cold. "Then I'll live forever." Eli's heart raced. "You want to use me?" Luciano didn't answer, but the silence said enough. Hours passed. The room grew colder. Eli closed his eyes, feeling the pulse of the sigil sync with the faint rhythm of the moon above. He could sense it. The power, waiting, whispering to him. "You are not his tool. You are the flame." Then the ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Luciano's guard shouted somewhere above. The torches flickered violently as a red hue seeped through the cracks in the stone. Luciano turned sharply toward the staircase. No. It's too early. The next blood moon wasn't supposed to rise yet. The air grew thick and heavy. Eli's chains rattled on their own. The mark on his chest burned hotter, brighter, until the metal around his wrists began to melt. He screamed, forcing his body to move. The chains shattered in a burst of scarlet light. Luciano stepped back, eyes wide. "What are you doing?" Eli stood slowly, his silhouette framed by the rising glow. "I'm not the same man you left in the rain." The walls cracked as the blood moon's light poured through a hole in the ceiling. Luciano shielded his face as the crimson beam struck Eli directly. His veins lit up like molten gold, his breath coming in short, furious gasps. "I warned you," the old man's voice whispered faintly in his mind, though he wasn't there. "The curse doesn't serve, it consumes." Eli roared, and the entire chamber exploded in red light. When the dust settled, the cell was in ruins. Luciano coughed, struggling to stand. Eli was gone. Only the broken chains and scorched stone remained. Outside the mansion, beneath the blazing blood moon, Eli stood alone, shirt torn, eyes burning with determination. "You wanted my power, Luciano," he whispered, staring up at the mansion's tower. "Now I'm coming for yours." And somewhere above, the moon pulsed, as if it was listening. The city slept uneasily that night. The blood moon glared down through drifting clouds, painting the rooftops in crimson light. In the heart of the shadows, Eli moved, silent, deliberate, deadly. The air around him shimmered faintly with the remnants of the curse. His torn shirt fluttered in the wind as he walked toward the city's underbelly, the slums ruled by Luciano's men. Every step was a promise, every breath a war drum. He was done being prey. From a rooftop, he watched a convoy of black cars pull into the Romano docks, the same men who had beaten and mocked him days ago. Laughter spilled from below, but it was hollow, nervous. They hadn't seen what he'd become. Not yet. Eli crouched low, the sigil on his chest glowing faintly beneath his shirt. His hearing sharpened. He could hear their heartbeats, one slow, one erratic, one about to die. When he leapt, it was like the wind itself had carried him. The first man fell before he even screamed. The second turned, gun trembling, but Eli was faster. A blur of motion, a whisper of death. He moved with unnatural grace, his body a vessel of instinct and fury. The blood moon's light danced across his skin as his enemies fell like shadows at dawn. By the time silence returned, only one guard remained, trembling, eyes wide. What are you?" he stammered. Eli stepped closer, his face half lit by the moon. "The mistake your boss made." He turned away, leaving the man alive, to spread fear. News spread quickly through the underworld. The weak Omega had become a phantom of vengeance, striking wherever Luciano's men gathered. Warehouses burned, accounts vanished. The Romano family's power began to crumble, one corner at a time. But Eli wasn't only destroying, he was searching. For answers, for truth. That night, he found himself standing before a decaying chapel on the city's outskirts. Inside, candles flickered weakly, and a familiar presence waited. The old man from before. "You're changing faster than I expected," the old man said, stepping into view. "But you're walking a dangerous line. The blood moon doesn't give without taking." Eli's jaw tightened. "I don't care what it takes. Luciano dies." The man shook his head. "You think this is vengeance? It's not. It's the moon reclaiming what it lost. When your rage burns out, it will consume you too." Eli turned away, voice low. "Then I'll burn with it." The old man sighed. "So did your mother." Eli froze. "What?" "She bore the same mark. She tried to save the line, to end the curse before you were born. Luciano's father killed her for it." The man's eyes softened. "And your brother watched." Eli's heart stopped. "Brother?" The man's silence was answer enough. Outside, the sound of engines shattered the quiet. Floodlights blazed through the broken windows. Luciano's men surrounded the chapel. Through the haze, Luciano himself stepped forward, his voice cold and measured. "Enough hiding, Eli. Come out and finish what you started." Eli's fingers curled, the sigil burning beneath his skin. "He's not ready," the old man warned. But Eli was already moving. He burst through the chapel doors, his silhouette framed against the moon. Luciano raised his gun. Eli's eyes met his, two halves of the same cursed bloodline, finally colliding under the blood moon. "Let's see," Luciano growled, "if the moon chose the right air." They charged at each other as thunder roared, fists and fury colliding in the light of the blood moon. And as Eli struck, the moon above flickered, revealing a second, hidden sigil forming on Luciano's chest. The curse wasn't divided after all. It was awakening in both. The air cracked like lightning when Eli's fist met Luciano's. The impact sent shockwaves through the ground, scattering dust and shattering the chapel doors. For a moment, both men stood locked in a deadly stalemate. Two forces of the same storm, two hearts beating with the same cursed rhythm. Luciano's smirk didn't waver. "Surprised, little brother?" he taunted, his voice low and venomous. "You thought you were special? That mark doesn't belong to you alone. It's our family's curse." Eli's mind reeled. "Brother?" The word felt foreign, impossible. "You're lying," he hissed. Luciano's eyes glowed faintly gold under the blood moon. "Am I? Tell me, who do you think paid for your survival when Father burned everything? Who sent you away to that orphanage?" He stepped closer, lowering his gun. "It was me, Eli. I spared you, because I thought I could live without the moon's pull." His voice darkened. "But when it chose you over me, when I saw that mark on your chest, I knew it was a mistake I'd regret forever." Eli's anger burned through the shock. "You killed our mother." Luciano's jaw tightened, eyes flickering with something between pain and fury. "No, Father did. But when I inherited his empire, I swore I'd erase every trace of that curse, even if it meant killing you too." The wind howled as the blood moon flared brighter, its crimson hue deepening until the entire city seemed drenched in bloodlight. The marks on both their chests pulsed in unison, connected, alive. Eli lunged again, faster this time, his movements fluid with supernatural precision. Luciano met him blow for blow, the clash of fists echoing through the night like thunder. Each strike released sparks of red and gold light, illuminating their faces, mirror images twisted by pain and destiny. "You could have been anything," Luciano shouted, blocking a punch and countering with a knee to Eli's ribs. "But you chose to be a monster." Eli coughed blood, grinning through it. "You made me one." Luciano's expression flickered with rage. He drove Eli backward, slamming him against the chapel's cracked wall. "You're not strong enough," he growled, pressing his forearm against Eli's throat. The moon chose wrong. Eli's eyes burned bright silver. "Then why are you afraid of me?" The ground trembled. Energy surged from Eli's body, blasting Luciano backward. Flames erupted from the broken candles, spiraling around Eli like living tendrils. His voice deepened, layered with the moon's whisper. "You can't kill what the curse protects." Luciano wiped blood from his lips, smiling wickedly. "Then I'll destroy everything you love instead." He snapped his fingers. From the shadows, dozens of armed men appeared surrounding the chapel ruins. Guns cocked, lasers trained on Eli. Eli looked around, fury and grief clashing in his eyes. "You'd sacrifice your own men?" Luciano laughed. "They're pawns. You're the game." The men opened fire. Bullets tore through the air, but the moon's light shifted, bending. The shots froze mid-air, hovering inches from Eli's skin before melting into dust. Everyone froze, even Luciano. Then, in the eerie silence, Eli whispered, "You've forgotten one thing, brother." His voice was no longer his own. It carried the echo of something ancient. The blood moon doesn't favor kings. It crowns wolves. Luciano's smirk faltered for the first time. Eli stepped forward, and the air darkened. The mark on his chest blazed like molten silver burning through his shirt. But then, to everyone's horror, Luciano's mark began to react, glowing in sync. They both screamed as invisible chains of light bound them together, pulling their energy into one violent storm. The moon above throbbed brighter, the sky itself splitting with lightning. The old man appeared again at the chapel's edge, shouting over the roar, "The curse is waking. Only one of you can survive it." Luciano, teeth gritted, raised his gun and aimed straight at Eli's heart. "Then I'll make sure it isn't you." Eli looked up, defiant, tears burning behind his fury. "Then pull the trigger, brother." Luciano fired. The bullet hit, but instead of piercing Eli, it shattered midair, unleashing a blinding surge of red energy that swallowed them both. When the light cleared, only one figure stood, surrounded by ash and silence, as the blood moon dimmed for the first time in centuries. But whose shadow remained? Smoke drifted through the ruins like mourning spirits. The chapel that once echoed with battle now lay in ashes and silence. Only one figure stood amidst the carnage, trembling, blood-stained, half-lit by the dying glow of the blood moon. Eli blinked through the haze. His ears rang. His body felt wrong, heavy, powerful. The mark on his chest still throbbed, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. Luciano was gone. No trace. No breath. Only the faint scent of iron and burnt ash lingered in the air. "Brother," Eli whispered into the wind. No answer. The moon above faded to gray, leaving the world darker than before. Then, from the shadows, a faint whisper came, not Luciano's voice, but something deeper. "The bond is sealed. One soul, divided by blood." Eli staggered, clutching his chest. A surge of memories not his own flashed before his eyes. Luciano's laughter as a boy, his first kill, the night he took control of the Mafia. Then came something else. A woman's scream. A baby crying, fire swallowing everything. He gasped. "Mother." Before he could make sense of it, headlights pierced the smoke. 3 black cars screeched to a halt outside the ruins. From them stepped Luciano's most trusted men, Dominic, Rhea, and Cain, the pack Eli once called brothers before they turned their backs on him. Dominic's gun was already raised. "Boss?" he called out, scanning the rubble. When his eyes met Eli's, his hand trembled. "What the hell? You're supposed to be dead." Eli took a shaky step forward. "Luciano's gone," he said, his voice rough but steady. "The curse took him." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut through bone. Then Rhea's cold voice sliced through the tension. "If he's gone, that means you're the new alpha." Cain spat on the ground. "Over my dead body." Eli's chest burned again. He could feel something alive inside him. Luciano's rage, his power, his memories, twisting together with his own. He clenched his fists. "I didn't ask for this," he growled. "But if you want to fight, you'll get one." Cain charged first. The moment his fist met Eli's arm, the air cracked open. Cain flew backward, crashing through a burning wall. The others hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes. Rhea, however, smirked. "So the curse is real," she said, lowering her gun. "That means we can't kill you, but we can destroy what you care about." Eli froze. "What did you do?" Rhea tossed him a blood-stained pendant, the same one belonging to Lila, the only person who ever showed Eli kindness when everyone else mocked him. His heart sank. "Where is she?" Rhea's smirk widened. "Luciano's final order before the blood moon rose. Take her. Use her as bait." Eli's entire body trembled. His aura flared, and the ashes around him lifted into the air like snow. The moon's light pulsed again, faint, but red enough to paint the ruins with rage. "You shouldn't have said that," he whispered. With one motion, he moved faster than their eyes could follow. Dominic's gun shattered in his hand. Rhea stumbled back, her bravado fading. The air around Eli crackled with unseen force, power too wild, too unstable. "Tell me where she is," Eli demanded, his voice echoing with a tone that wasn't entirely his. Half him, half Luciano. Rhea's lips quivered. "The harbor," she stammered. "Warehouse 17, but—" Before she could finish, the ground beneath her exploded. Eli vanished into the night, leaving behind nothing but the whisper of the curse and the promise of vengeance. Hours later, Kane regained consciousness. "He's coming for us," he muttered. Dominic stared into the distance. "No," he said darkly. "He's coming for everyone." Above the city, the moon began to glow again, faintly red, as if awakening too soon. And far away, in a cold warehouse lit by flickering lamps, a woman's voice echoed in fear. "Eli, please don't come here," she whispered. "It's a trap." As the wind howled over the sea, a shadow approached the warehouse, eyes glowing faint silver, steps silent as death. Inside, a figure watched from the darkness, holding a gun and wearing Luciano's old ring. Luciano's voice whispered in the wind, "Did you really think death could stop me, little brother?" The night air at the harbor was thick with mist and salt. Waves slapped against rusted metal as Eli moved through the shadows, his boots barely making a sound on the wet concrete. The old warehouse loomed ahead. Warehouse 17. Its windows dark, its silence too perfect to be real. He could smell them before he saw them. The gun oil, the sweat, the faint metallic tang of fear. Dozens of Luciano's men, hiding behind crates and broken machinery. And underneath it all, Lila's scent. Faint, frightened. Eli's jaw tightened. He whispered under his breath, "Hold on, Lila. I'm coming." He slipped through the side door, the hinges groaning softly. Inside, the air was colder, heavier. Shadows swirled around broken lights that flickered as if sensing his presence. His eyes adjusted instantly. The curse had sharpened his senses beyond human limits. Every heartbeat in the room pulsed like a drum in his ears. "Eli." The voice was soft, weak. He turned, and there she was, Lila, bound to a chair in the center of the warehouse, her hair disheveled, face bruised but alive. Her eyes widened as she saw him. "No, don't come any closer. It's a trap." Eli froze, muscles tensing. Then the click of dozens of safeties filled the air. Red dots blinked onto his chest and head. "Too late," said a familiar voice. From the darkness behind Lila, a man stepped forward, tall, composed, wearing Luciano's ring on his finger and his trademark coat draped over his shoulders. The sight sent a chill racing through Eli's spine. "Luciano." The man smiled faintly. "In a way," he said. "Let's just say your brother left a piece of himself behind, his memories, his instincts, his will." He touched his chest. "And now they live in me." Eli's eyes blazed silver. "You're not him." The man tilted his head. "No, but I carry what he left unfinished, and right now that means killing you." Without warning, the floor erupted. Flashbangs detonated, blinding light and sound tearing through the air. Men opened fire. Bullets screamed toward Eli, but he was already gone, moving like a ghost through the chaos. He grabbed one gunman by the neck, flinging him into another, then ducked behind a pillar as rounds tore through concrete. Through the gunfire, he heard Lila scream, "Eli, run!" But he didn't. He couldn't. Not again. He closed his eyes, and the world slowed. The mark on his chest flared, feeding on his fury. The bullets in midair twisted, reversing their course. Gunmen fell as their own fire tore through them. Smoke filled the warehouse, screams echoing off the steel walls. When the last shot faded, Eli stood amid the bodies, his eyes burning bright silver. "Where is he?" he demanded, voice echoing like thunder. The imposter smirked from the catwalk above. "Right here, brother." Eli leaped, crashing onto the platform. Their fists collided in a flash of red light. The man fought like Luciano. Precise, brutal, merciless. Every punch carried the rhythm of someone who had been trained by blood itself. You feel it, don't you? The imposter sneered between strikes. He's still inside you too, that rage, that hunger. Eli slammed him into the wall. Luciano's dead. The man laughed, blood dripping from his lip. Then why does his voice still whisper in your head? And just like that, Eli froze. Because it was true. Beneath his fury, a voice murmured, low, calm, unmistakable. Finish it, Eli. End me. The imposter's blade flashed. Eli barely dodged, the knife slicing his arm. Pain seared through him, but with it came a surge of power. He grabbed the man's wrist and twisted until bone snapped, then slammed him to the ground. The imposter gasped. He was right about you. He choked. You really are the monster he created. Eli raised his hand, the curse mark blazing. No, he said quietly. I'm the monster he couldn't control. He brought his fist down, but before it could land, a shot rang out. Eli stumbled backward, blood blooming across his side. He turned. Lila stood behind him, hands trembling, the smoking gun in her grip. Her voice broke as she whispered, I'm sorry, Eli. They said they'd kill everyone if I didn't. Eli's eyes widened, the light fading from them. Lila? The imposter rose slowly, clutching his shattered arm but grinning. Loyalty, he murmured. Such a fragile thing. Eli dropped to one knee, his breath ragged. The curse mark on his chest pulsed wildly, like it was trying to fight for control. Then, a red aura burst from his body, swallowing the entire room in an explosion of energy. Lila screamed as the force knocked her backward, shattering glass and tearing metal apart. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Eli, eyes glowing brighter than the blood moon, whispering something she couldn't hear. When the dust settled, the warehouse was silent again. The imposter was gone. Lila was alone. On the floor, carved into the concrete by some unseen force, were 3 blood-red words. He's not dead. Far away, in the shadows of the city's highest tower, a man stood before a mirror, Luciano's reflection staring back at him. He smiled faintly and whispered, The curse never ends. Cold. Silent. The kind of silence that feels alive. Lila's eyelids fluttered open, stinging from smoke and dust. Every breath hurt, every muscle screamed. The warehouse was gone, torn open like paper, its walls blackened and twisted from the blast. The air reeked of burnt metal and blood. Eli, she whispered, her voice barely a sound. She dragged herself across the floor, her trembling hands scraping over broken glass and debris. All around her lay the remnants of a nightmare, bodies twisted in unnatural positions, weapons melted into the concrete. But Eli, there was no sign of him, only the faint, ghostly shimmer of silver ash where he'd stood. No, she murmured. No, no, no. Then, through the quiet, a soft hum filled the air. She turned her head weakly and saw the mark, carved into the floor where Eli fell, 3 blood-red words that hadn't faded. He's not dead. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed her hand against the letters. Then where are you? A sudden gust of wind blew through the gaping walls, carrying with it a faint whisper, his voice. Lila, stay away from the city. Her heart froze. Eli? But the voice faded, swallowed by the moaning wind. Before she could react, the faint wail of sirens echoed in the distance. Mafia reinforcements. She forced herself to her feet, limping toward the exit. But as she stepped outside, the world beyond the harbor made her blood run cold. The sky was changing. The horizon burned with red light, bleeding into the clouds like fire. The blood moon hadn't just risen again. It was expanding, stretching its crimson glow across the entire dawn. The curse wasn't done. It was spreading. And at the center of it all, far above the city skyline, She saw a figure standing on a tower rooftop, coat flapping in the wind, a silver mark burning on his chest. "Eli," she breathed. But as she squinted through the haze, she realized something was wrong. His stance, his aura, colder, crueler. His head turned slightly, and the faint glint of a familiar ring caught the red light. Luciano's ring. "No," she whispered in horror. "It can't be." In the heart of the city, that figure stood motionless atop the highest skyscraper, the same tower that once served as Luciano's fortress. His eyes flickered between silver and gold, as if two souls were battling for control inside one body. Beneath him, the streets erupted in chaos. Packs of armed men fought each other, confused, frenzied. The curse had infected them too, spreading like wildfire, twisting their loyalty and minds. Inside the tower, Dominic and Rhea watched from the control room, disbelief etched across their faces. "That's not possible," Rhea muttered. "Luciano's dead." Dominic shook his head slowly. "No, look at his stance. That's him. Or part of him." "What do we do?" Dominic sighed, loading his rifle. "We kill what's left." Lila stumbled through the ruined streets, dodging debris and fire. Her wounds throbbed, but her fear burned hotter. She knew where she was going. The tower. Whatever that thing was, whether Eli or Luciano or both, she couldn't leave him to destroy what was left of the city. When she reached the plaza, the wind nearly knocked her off her feet. The air pulsed with red energy. The closer she got, the louder the whispers became. Hundreds of voices overlapping, echoing the same phrase. One must die for the other to live. Her vision blurred as she entered the tower's lower halls. Blood smeared the walls. The lights flickered wildly. Something was coming down the elevator shaft. Fast. The doors burst open. Dominic stumbled out, half-burned and gasping. "Get out. He's not Eli anymore." Lila grabbed him. "Where is he?" Dominic's eyes rolled back. "He's calling the moon. He's trying to end it. By ending everything." Then he went still. She climbed the stairs, ignoring the pain in her legs, until she reached the rooftop. The wind howled, carrying the scent of storm and steel. There he was, standing at the edge, arms spread wide, the blood moon glowing directly above him. His voice was low but filled with power. "It has to end. No more brothers. No more blood." "Eli," she cried. He turned. For a moment his eyes softened, the man she once knew flickering through the storm. "Lila?" Then a smirk twisted across his face, not Eli's smirk, Luciano's. "You shouldn't have come, little lamb." Lila's heart broke. "Please fight it. You're stronger than him." The wind roared. "No," he said, his voice layered with two tones. "We're the same now." He stepped closer, the rooftop trembling under his power. "When the red dawn rises fully, one soul will remain. His, or mine." Tears streamed down Lila's face. "Then let it be yours." He smiled faintly, touching her cheek. "If only you knew what that means." Before she could speak, the sky split with crimson lightning. The blood moon began to descend, its glow engulfing them both. The curse was reaching its end, or its rebirth. As the tower shook, Eli fell to his knees, screaming in agony as silver and gold light ripped through his body. Lila reached for him, sobbing, but an unseen force hurled her backward. The last thing she saw before darkness swallowed her was the sky turning completely red, and two shadows merging into one. The sky bled. A storm of crimson lightning tore across the heavens, painting the city in shades of apocalypse. The tower trembled, glass shattering, wind screaming like 1,000 restless spirits. At the center of it all, Eli's body convulsed, trapped between two souls warring for control. Luciano's voice thundered through his mind. "You were never meant to carry it. The curse is mine." Eli's roar shook the air. "Then why won't you let me go?" Silver light burst from his veins, clashing against the golden flames that snaked through his body. His reflection split in two, one half pure fury, the other grief. Lila, pinned against the rooftop wall by the storm's force, reached out through the chaos. "Eli, listen to me," she cried. "You're not him. Fight it." He turned toward her, eyes flickering wildly, one silver, one gold. "I can't," he rasped. "He's inside me." Luciano's laughter echoed in his head, cold and triumphant. "Because I am you. Every wound, every rage, every drop of blood, all mine." Eli clutched his chest, gasping as the curse mark blazed hotter. "No." His voice deepened, carrying both tones at once. "You're a shadow, a ghost chained to greed." "And yet," Luciano whispered, "you killed for me. You became me." The storm intensified. Metal beams tore from the tower and flew into the sky like weightless spears. Lila crawled forward against the wind, blood streaking her face. "Eli, please, stop fighting him, control him." Her words hit something deep. Eli's breathing slowed. The red and gold lights fused into white for a heartbeat, and in that brief calm, he saw everything. His mother's face. Luciano as a boy, laughing, the first time Lila smiled at him. The countless bodies he'd left behind. And then, peace. "I see it now," he whispered. "The curse doesn't want one of us dead, it wants balance." Luciano's voice faltered. "What are you doing?" Eli straightened slowly, his body glowing brighter than the moon above. "Ending this." He spread his arms wide as the blood moon lowered until it hung just above the tower. The mark on his chest split open, forming a blazing sigil. The storm around them froze. Every drop of rain suspended midair. Lila's heart pounded as she screamed, "Eli, no!" But it was too late. He looked back at her and smiled faintly. Not with sorrow, but peace. "Tell them I wasn't weak," he said softly. "Tell them the Omega chose to be free." Then he stepped forward and plunged his hand into his own chest. The explosion that followed silenced the world. A pulse of light swept across the city, washing everything in silver fire. The blood moon shattered, scattering its glow into the stars. When the light faded, the tower stood half destroyed, its peak gone, smoke spiraling into the dawn. Lila lay motionless amid the rubble, her ears ringing. Slowly, painfully, she sat up. "Eli?" But there was no answer, only the soft whistle of morning wind. She wept until the sun broke through the smoke, golden rays replacing the crimson sky. The curse was gone. The mark on her neck, once faintly silver, had vanished. Then, faint footsteps echoed behind her. She turned sharply. A man stood there, tall, cloaked in black, eyes hidden beneath the shadow of a hood. In his hand gleamed a silver ring with a blood-red insignia. Luciano's ring. Her heart stopped. "Who are you?" The man stepped closer, and as the light hit his face, her breath caught. It was Eli, but not the same. His hair streaked with gold, his eyes a calm blend of silver and amber. "Eli," she whispered. He smiled gently. "Something like that." She stood shakily. "What happened to you?" He looked toward the horizon where the shattered moon once hung. "Luciano's gone. I buried him inside me. The curse ended, but it changed me." Lila's tears returned, softer this time. "You came back." He nodded, but his gaze was distant. "For now. The city needs an alpha, one who remembers both mercy and wrath." As the wind tugged at his coat, the faintest glimmer of the moon's broken light shimmered in his eyes. He turned to her, voice steady. "Tell them the Mafia has a new alpha, one born of blood, but bound by loyalty." She stared at him, torn between awe and sorrow. "And what about you?" Eli gave a small, haunting smile. "Me? I'll keep the peace I never had." He slipped the ring onto his finger. Instantly, the nearby city lights flickered, as if the streets themselves recognized their new ruler. From the rooftops below, surviving members of both packs watched in stunned silence. Then, one by one, they knelt. Lila stepped beside him, her hand trembling as she touched his arm. What now? He looked out over the reborn dawn. Now we rebuild, under the light of a new moon. For a long moment there was peace. The storm had ended. The curse had broken. The city breathed again. But as the camera pulled back, high above the skyline, the reflection of the shattered blood moon flickered faintly in the clouds. And within it, two silhouettes shimmered. Luciano's whisper echoed faintly through the wind. You can't destroy what you are, brother. Only delay it. Eli's eyes narrowed. The gold in them glowed for just a second. Lila turned to him with a hopeful smile, but he didn't respond. His gaze lingered on the horizon where a second, smaller moon began to rise, glowing faint red. The curse wasn't gone. It was beginning again.